For reflection number one, I chose the year 2006, which was when I was 8 years old, and I was in third grade, and I had just moved to Virginia from Colorado, and it was my it was me and my mom, my dad, and my little sister who was 6 years old at the time. She was turning 6, and she was in kindergarten. We both went to CE Curtis Elementary, which was in Chester, Virginia, and it was a really nice area. There was all the activities like library, music, art. There was even like computer classes. There was PE. They had a decent sized lunchroom that doubled as an auditorium for like plays and stuff. My teacher was a little blonde lady, and her name was Miss Witt, and she was very short. She was barely taller than us, and we were in third grade. She was a decent teacher. She made me cry once because I didn't know how to write cursive, but we resolved our issues. And it's a pretty good year for me. I was obsessed with That's a Raven, Sweet Life and Zack and Cody, Sweet Life and Zack and Cody. Hannah Montana came out that year, so I was getting into that. There was also a show called American Dragon Jake Long, and it was a little animated show, and I loved it. My community it's sort of like everybody knows everybody, but since I was new, I didn't really know everybody. So it was very close-knit, but also very distant. Like, they weren't always together. Like, they did the different holiday parades. There was recreation sports that people could do. I did cheerleading. They had really nice, there was a couple parks in the area you could go hiking, walking, you could go play at the playground. There was a really nice, the Chesterfield Library, that was really nice, and it was right down the street from me. It was really put together. In school, I was much more reserved, and I was much more, nervous, and, I didn't want to really stand out, and so I didn't have a lot of friends, but the friends that I did have were very outgoing, which is a little funny for me because they were very outgoing. They were very diverse in their personalities and in their heritage and stuff. There's a pretty good mix of people, different ethnicities and stuff in my area. Or at least at my school, and my parents they really tried since it was third grade that they wanted to be more involved with my class and stuff, so they try to go on field trips and go to the class parties, the little class parties, and bring snacks and stuff if they could. And besides those little things, if they weren't really that much involved in my school, because they didn't really know people, so they didn't know what to do and how to go along with that. So that was pretty much it. Unless I came home with Mom, I'm selling this for the school, can you buy some? And she'd be like, okay, and she'd buy 2 packages of brownies. The community was super into the rec sports, so the football, baseball, they'd come out and watch all that, and I was a cheerleader. I did cheerleading. I didn't start until later, but it was super fun, and everybody was really supportive of those type of activities and stuff, and they'd come out to the school plays that the elementary school did, and it was really close-knit in that aspect. My mom is full Puerto Rican. Her parents were from Puerto Rico. They're like first generation. I think that's the correct term. And my dad, he knows his mother is German, but he doesn't know his biological father, so he doesn't know that other part of him. The area that we lived in was fairly, it was really suburban. Like, it was more urban than rural, but like we lived in the suburbs behind the high school, and there was kids everywhere, and it was really good, nice area. Like, we could ride our bikes up and down the street and not like worry. My mom wouldn't have to worry, and everybody knew everybody, at least. Like, they'd keep an eye out on Brittany and Maria if my mom had to do something. And like, and at that time we were Catholic. We later on converted to just non-denominational, like Christian, but at that time when I was in 3rd grade, we were Catholic, and we went to church every Sunday. And I'm pretty sure, I was trying to remember, but I'm pretty sure that I had my first communion that year too. So that was a big deal in my family. Grandparents came, and aunts and stuff came to see little Brittany take her first communion. We were middle class, lower middle class, like, it was in between regular and lower middle class. We rented a house in that Chester area. My dad was and is a staff sergeant in the U.S. Army, and he at that time was an instructor, and he taught new privates coming in at Fort Lee like how to like work equipment and the basics of what his MOS is, which is water purification. And so he taught them, like, he was an instructor, he was a teacher to them. He enjoyed that. My mom did not have a job at that time. She was just a stay-at-home mom, and with me and my little sister. And we would do little activities when we'd come home, and she'd help us with homework. And it was really good because we were little, and like, I enjoyed having her home. During that time, we didn't really take vacations. I'm pretty sure we only took like one vacation, and it was just like a weekend trip to go see my grandmother up in New Jersey, my mom's mom. And we went to go see her, but most of the time people came to see us, or we did like day trips to the beach or something. But we had just moved to Virginia that year when I was 8, and so we didn't really do much because we had just moved, and my parents were also, they had decided that they wanted to buy a house in Virginia. They really liked the area, and they wanted to buy a house, so they were saving to buy a house. So that's why we didn't do much vacationing. But also, my parents they've never been divorced. They've been together, but either a year or two, it was when I was in kindergarten, they were separated. My dad went through a rough patch before he had to be deployed to Iraq the first time, and it was very straining on their relationship. So they were separated for a year while I was in kindergarten, but they had gotten back together at this point and had moved to Virginia together, and so we were living together again and living in Virginia. At this time, during this year, when I was 8, George W. Bush was president. And funny thing is, for some reason, even though both my parents are fairly Democratic, for some reason I loved George Bush. I thought he was the coolest person ever. Maybe because I was just starting to learn about history and like presidents and stuff like that, and I like a lot of that stuff. I like history, so I was really into that, like the president and like who he was. So I got super excited when like I saw him on TV, and one time we saw him in Arlington giving on Labor Day. We saw him giving a speech, and that was like, I died. I was like, oh my gosh, it's the freaking president sitting in front of me. But yeah, on January 19th, 2006, the New Horizon probe was launched by NASA for the first mission to Pluto, and that year Pluto was also demoted to a dwarf planet. Also in 2006, the Iraq dictator Saddam Hussein was executed on December 30th, 2006. He was hung. Google was purchased. Google purchased YouTube for $1.65 billion. I thought that was pretty funny because YouTube didn't start getting big until like 2008. So, also North Korea conducted their first nuclear test on October 3rd, 2006. So that's when everything started and began with North Korea. Also because I was a giant animal fanatic in my wee years, especially when I was 8. The West African black rhino was declared extinct, and because it's my favorite social media platform, Twitter was launched in July 2006. Thank you for bearing with me, Miss Baldwin. Professor, what? I need to do this over. Do I? Thank you for bearing with me, Professor Baldwin, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Hey.